Ladies and gentlemen, Pierre Patrick.
How you doing?
Hi, Pierre. How are you? Why don't
Nice to see
you
you.
pick up that mic right over there?
Okay.
And you got to talk into it. Like, hello. There you go.
Yes. How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
I'm
So
doing
nice.
great. I'm
So
doing
nice to
good.
meet you.
No, it's really nice for you to have me. This is really, really cool. So everybody looks really happy and curious, which is always good.
Well, happy is the really motto
Yes.
of Throwback Thursdays here in Burbank. Happy and positive things. So, now tell us a little bit about you first, and then how you came to actually become interested in the Doris Day show and how the book happened. Let's start with a little bit about your background.
Okay. Well, I've always loved Doris Day since I was a kid. And, you know, I moved to LA when I was 15 and basically just made myself into the entertainment industry and kind of did all kinds of project music and everything. Eventually I got a Grammy nomination, but I didn't win. And
Well, what was that for?
it was for an album I produced called The Christmas That Almost Wasn't with John Lithgow. And it was written by Ogden Nash and tons of stars, Billy Crawford and people from Boy Meets World, a couple of groups from Transcontinental, so that was really cool to do. And I worked on some television shows and movies, and now I'm at the Jerry Pace Agency, kind of running that. And yes, there you go. And it's a wonderful agency. We're merging actually 10 agencies together, and it's expanding, and it's great, and always looking for new talent. And so, but to go back to Doris Day, I've always loved Doris Day. And I moved to LA when I was really young, and when I moved here, Doris Day, I just moved to Carmel, so I basically missed her completely. So in 1989,
And she lives at Carmel.
she lives in Carmel. So in 1989, she was coming to LA, and she was going to get the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globe Awards. So I found out the day before, and I called the Golden Globes, and I had to go because it was Doris Day. It was the only time she was coming in town. I think I was about 17 at the time. So I couldn't get a ticket to the Golden Globe at all. They just were not going to let me in. So I said, I got to go anyway. So I lived in Westwood. My parents had given me a Hugo Boss tuxedo for Christmas. So I put the tuxedo on. I walked to the Beverly Hilton. And then I got in, and there was a table and everything. And you know, you go in, and all the doors are open. Everybody's walking in. And you do the old, hi, Bob. And then, of course, somebody turns around.
Right,
you know? So I walked in, and I was prepared. So I had my Doris Day picture, and I walked straight to her table, and she was with this guy, Clint Eastwood. Anyway, so basically, I walked in, and I went to her, and then I showed her this picture, and I met her for the first time. She was so beautiful, and all dressed in white, and she was really, really terrific. And she loved the picture, and she showed it to everybody. Alan Carr was there, and Terry, her son, and Jacqueline, his wife at the time, and it was just really cool. And I spent a few minutes, but then I didn't want to leave the room. And you know, if you guys ever gone to the Golden Globes, it's all divided by shows. So you have every show as a table, or the movie as a table. So you really can't find a seat. So I went to this table for a show called Dallas. And so I was sitting there. There was Larry Agman and all those people. And there was 2 seats on the back. So I sat in one of those, and they're looking at me. They don't know who I am. So I'm eating my salad. And then 2 girls, they were twins, they were on that show, so they came in and sat there. And so I was, oh my God, I'm in the wrong seat, what's the matter with me? So then I started walking around the room, and then Jimmy Smith, you know him? Yeah. From LA Law, he had a show at the time. He says, hey kid, what are you doing? And I said, I'm gonna be really honest. I said, well, I'm really here for Doris Day. He goes, really? He says, yeah, I love Doris Day. This is so cool. I said, really? He says, my God, that's like unbelievable. So he goes, I'm gonna get a chair and a dinner for you. So he put me at the LA Law table. I had dinner with him and a show, and then I got to see Doris at the end, and the Merv Griffin party and everything. And fast forward to last year, I was in church in Brentwood, and Jimmy Smith was there. So at the end of the Mass, I went to talk to him, and I said, you know, we had dinner together in 1989. You may not remember this. He says, I started talking with the Golden Globes. So were you with that little kid? I said, that was me. He said, oh my God, and now I know Doris, and we became friends throughout the years. Oh my God, that's like unbelievable. And he introduced me to his father-in-law, who was 91. So, but anyway, that was my first experience of meeting Doris. This was a long story, wasn't it?
No, it's a good story. Those are the good stories.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, I mean, I'm like going on and
No,
on.
no, no.
so,
I like those stories. So, but at what point did you then say, you know, I want to write a book? Did you always have that in the back of your head?
Well,
or-
I got a job writing for a magazine called Television Chronicles.
Sure.
You may remember that
I do
magazine.
remember that.
So,
They did a nice review of my Bewitched Forever book.
there you go. So great magazine, and that I wish the magazine was so good and specific about television. So I wanted my first story to be about Doris Day, and you know Doris Day doesn't do any interviews. So I decided I'm going to try it anyway. So I started interviewing co-stars and sending her cassettes of the interviews by mail, and she listened to them and she liked them. And then finally on Mother's Day, she decided to do an interview with me for the magazine. So, and we talked for more than an hour. She really liked me. She invited me to Carmel. She gave me a dog. I mean, it was really cool, you know? I mean, it was just like all this stuff happened. It was just terrific. And then I started going to Carmel and having lunches and going to the house. And
Clint Eastwood was there too at some point because he's in Carmel.
yeah, he's their next door neighbor, but who cares? But anyway, Doris was always so
you realize
gracious.
we're taping this. Okay, go.
That's all right. So it's Doris Day, you know. So, but basically, yeah, she was always so gracious and nice. And even when I went to visit, my dog always came to the restaurant with us, and her dogs would stay in the car. She would mainly talk to the manager. My dog fell in love with me like crazy. So it was. I have some wonderful experience and dinners and lunches, and she's just been amazing. And you know, I've been really lucky. I worked with Shirley Jones and Debbie Reynolds and Mickey Rooney and all those cool people. But there's something about Doris that's just really magic.
What is it?
I don't know. I think there's an essence and an aura about her, and she's so gracious and wonderful. It's like when you meet certain movie stars, they're cool, they're fun, they're kind of the same. But Doris, there's a certain, I don't know, it's just something
Sincerity?
really, yeah, and like an aura, magic about her that's like really amazing. You know, I mean, she's just so wonderful. And she's very selective who she talks to and friends that she has and everything. And for good reason, because, you know, there's been some bad experience. And the press sometimes haven't been, you know, they photograph her in horrible places and they do all. But right now, she's been really in charge of her career. She releases new photos when she wants to. And she's very involved with the Animal Foundation, the hotel, the Cypress Inn. And very active with all that she's doing, you know.
You know, and we had Jackie Joseph on the show a
Yeah,
couple weeks ago.
and Jackie wrote the foreword to my book.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
We were going to
she's
try and get her
terrific.
here tonight, but
She's traveling.
She's traveling.
Yeah. But when we released the book, the first book, Que Sera Sera, Jackie was there, and Rosemarie, and Doris called. And she talked to everybody in the bookstore, which was really, really nice.
So this is the second
That's
book?
the second version of that book. It's
Oh,
more
okay.
a deeper interview. We did a lot of stuff with her movies, and all her albums are included. So there's a little more of her career.
So
in
it's
that.
not just about the
The
show.
It's all the
Excellent.
films are included. And
Which, my favorite
albums.
is Send Me No Flowers.
Yeah,
that
okay,
is my
that's great.
favorite Doris Day movie, Doris Day Rock Hudson movie.
Yeah,
actually.
if you rent some of the DVDs, sometimes I do the audio commentary. I did Caprice with Richard Harris, so if you want.
Now,
to hear me
was
talk more.
before Rock got sick? Was there was some talk that they were going to do one more?
You know, they
film?
talked about it. They were going to do one maybe in '85. There was a script written. Christy McNichol was supposed to play their daughter, but Doris became very picky and selective. You know, if it wasn't perfect and if it wasn't great, she really wasn't interested in making a comeback. ABC made a huge offer for her to do The Widows Club, and it was supposed to be a mystery movie kind of a thing. And
You mean like a semi-regular show?
No, it was, yeah, but they gave her script approval. She never approved of any script. So, but that's Doris Day. You know, she can do whatever she wants. You know, she worked for 50 years. She was the #1 box office film star of all time. Still is. That record hasn't been broken for women. She recorded 1,200 songs and had 76 charted hits. No other woman has ever done that. But people forget all that. So, you know, and when she got the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys, at the 50th Grammy Award.
And what year was that again?
It was, we're at the 57th right now. It's about 7 years ago. So it was really cool to bring it to Carmel, and there's a photo of that. And it's just, and that's an award she really likes and appreciates. I know the Academy Award refuses to give her one, and that's ridiculous. But
And they're giving, I think, 3 different honorary Oscars or something this year, aren't
yeah, they're
they?
giving it to Gina Rowlands. Okay. So I didn't hear any applause at all. Oh, Gina Rowlands, it's Doris Day. So, it's like, okay. And Gina Rowlands is great, but, there's Debbie Reynolds is getting one for her charity work, which is great. So she's going to get that, and Debbie's terrific. So, there you
And
go.
Doris was well liked within the industry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody
most
liked
of-
Doris Day. I mean, everybody that worked with her liked her and loved her. It's like Marilyn Monroe and Doris Day were working pretty much at the same time. And I did a documentary called Doris Day versus Marilyn Monroe, which is on Fox. And we compare Marilyn and Doris doing the exact same scene from the same movie.
Right.
And it's really interesting to see the difference in the way they acted. Marilyn Monroe studied in New York to become a better actress, and she was even worse after that.
I think I saw some of that on the extras.
Yeah, exactly,
Right?
exactly. And Marilyn was tough to work with and not focus on her career or lines and everything. And when you work on a film, and maybe some of you guys know, you have to be there. You have to be on time. It's all. But at that time, Doris worked so much. She was recording in the morning, go to the film studio, get makeup, no break for lunch. She had to go back to the recording studio. She only had Sundays off, and she had to learn her songs and the script for the following week. And she didn't have an earplug for her lines, and she didn't have a teleprompter.
And she never had an acting lesson
No,
either. I mean, she was a natural, yes?
Exactly. I mean, her, Frank Sinatra, so many great people, never study. And LA is the #1 place for acting schools. I mean, if you turn around, there's an acting school all around here, so there's more acting school than actors. So I know, because as an agent, I go to a lot of acting schools, and the stars of the acting schools are always the acting teacher. So, which I find
I've done that.
interesting. Well, I'm sure yours was very good. So,
So what is your favorite Doris Day movie and why?
it's really hard. Love Me or Leave Me is great.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's an amazing film. The Man Who Knew Too Much is great.
Okay, talk a little bit about that film. So what is it for those that...
Love Me or Leave Me is with James Cagney, and you're falling asleep, aren't you?
Huh, what? I don't want to go to school today.
So basically, Love Me or Leave Me is James Cagney plays her manager, also named Marty, like her husband was her manager. It's the real story. Ruth Etting was a very big singer in the 20s. And Doris played a part that was different. She was drinking, her life was tough, she was raped, and she kept on doing her career. And it's just an excellent film. It was her first movie with MGM.
And was that her favorite?
No, her favorite is Calamity Jane to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought there was one really heavy-duty role that she did. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, she liked it. The Man Who Knew Too Much. She really loved the Hitchcock film. One of my favorite also is My Dream Is Yours, which is her second film, because it's Doris raising a son with no husband. It's kind of her life story. She becomes a big star on the radio. Jack Carson was her co-star. And there's so many songs in there, and it kind of follows her life at the time. Plus Bugs Bunny's in it, which is really cool. So I love Caprice. That's why I did the audio commentary on it. She plays a real spy. It's like the James Bond kind of a thing, which was really fun. And I don't think there's really a bad Doris Day movie. One that's a little known is Storm Warning, because it's the only time that Doris Day died. And she gets killed by the Ku Klux Klan. It's a heavy drama. And Ronald Reagan plays the district attorney, Ginger Rogers, her older sister. Doris gets killed at the end of the film by the Klan, and that's how the movie ends. And apparently there was such a drop in membership for the Ku Klux Klan, because if the Ku Klux Klan kills Doris Day, there's something wrong with the Klan. And that was a great point to prove.
What are one of the amazing things about her? There's so many amazing things, but certainly her health and her beauty that she's retained through the years. And she never really, I think I read either one of her early biographies, that she never really did any major exercises, just very few daily. Do you know if she still does those? Or?
Yeah, I mean, she's a big swimmer. I mean, she swam laps around the pool. She always took a lot of sun. And there's a misconception with Doris Day, the way she was filmed and the cameras. It was the lighting in the studio that really gave her that effect. And Norman Jewison, who directed her in her first movie with James Gardner, arrived on the set the first day, and he couldn't understand this lighting. It was like unbelievable, but Doris knew how to light herself, and she'd been working so many movies.
So it wasn't the cameras, it was the lighting.
It was the lighting. So he said, "My God, this is so bright. This is crazy." And then he looked in the camera. He says, "Oh my God, this looks beautiful."
Wow.
And Norman Jewison says that he learned so much from working with her because it was really one of his first films. He had worked with Judy Garland on her television show, and Marty Melcher hired him because he knew he would be good working with a major star and could handle any problems. And Judy Garland was a problem a day, so that was really tough. But he directed that show the best he could for the time that it lasted.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Doris Day Show.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's the only show, I believe, in the history of television that changed formats every year. So could you break it down a little bit for us?
I mean, if you look at shows today, they change formats every year. So you can almost look at it as that she wanted the show to evolve and have the life of a woman be, I mean, and the show didn't change. The show actually only changed once drastically because she was a mom and she moved with her kids to San Francisco, got a job at Today's World. And it probably would have been a good idea if for the fourth season there was a thing like 5 years later where the kids are in college and then there's a new boss.
Which they do a lot.
Which they do a lot. But at the time they weren't thinking. And Doris wanted to move the show forward, and she wanted to be a reporter as opposed to just a secretary. And then she started traveling the world and fell in love with Peter Lawford, and all these different things happened. The show became a little more adult, and Jackie Joseph was terrific in it, and John Daniel was great. And so the show really changed in the way the world was changing, and All in the Family and all these shows were on. And this was a very mature show, plus it was an expensive show. The sets were unbelievable. You know, the way they were done. I mean, they had 2 sets for it. It was big, it was huge, and it was filmed. And Doris bought everything. She was the executive producer on it. And the show really went from her living on the farm, moving to San Francisco, getting a job, because she stayed on the farm for 2 years, and then moving to San Francisco. She explains that in episode because the commute was too much, and she stayed in the same apartment. So the kids basically either went back with their grandfather, or they were older, and she was older and knew people at the magazine, and that's really it. But people like to say, "Oh my God, it was different every year." I mean, Ellen was changing her show every year. You know, she was a wonderful, cool girl, single. Boom, she's a lesbian. So it's kind of like it just changed, like, and the friends were changing, the name was changing, and that's okay because that's how life is.
Okay. So,
like you almost disagree with that.
No, that's not. I don't disagree with that. All right. So tell us about the book. Give us a little breakdown on the book.
Okay. So the book features. It's a television show, but what we did is that at the end of every episode, we do some day facts that either goes back to her life or her career. An interesting day fact, for example, is one of the episodes from the first season. Doris does a family picture, and the little boys want to bring girls to be in the picture. It's a milk commercial. So one of the little boys brings a black girl as his best friend, and the photographer says it can't be done, that won't work, blah blah blah. So even in 1968 there was and so that's a very controversial episode. And Doris wanted to make sure this girl was included in the show. Now remember that Doris' stepmom was black, and you know she had lived through this whole thing of her father being prejudiced, and then falling in love with this woman that owned the bar that he bought, and then surprised Doris Day one day with that story. And that was such a thing that changed, and her father did this in the 50s, so that was really, and that there's some episodes that are really, but she was so, she did it so subtly, and the censors at CBS and all that stuff, it was okay if Doris Day was doing it, you know, and she was able to bring that in without Archie Bunker yelling
Right.
and that kind of a thing, and it was nice, and it became really exciting. And then she grew with that, and a lot of episodes would involve pollution and air change and animals and so it became kind of
And yet it
interesting.
still remained family and
Yeah.
cozy and likable. And,
Yeah.
I mean, she
And
was
comfortable.
Yes, but she I think, and that's a word that we talk a lot about, is the likability. Would you expand a little bit on the likability factor of
Yeah.
Doris?
You know what's interesting is that Doris got in 1968 into television, and a lot of movie stars were doing that. Henry Fonda got his own television show. James Stewart got his own television show. Debbie Reynolds got one. Lana Turner got one, and they all bombed. People felt really comfortable with Doris Day in their homes. Those movie stars, just for some reason, didn't resonate for television ratings. Henry Fonda was not good doing a sitcom.
As the Smith family,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So it just didn't really. People didn't like that. They just didn't want to see that. Rock Hudson did good on television with Nickelodeon and Life.
Sure.
So it's funny because those two people really resonated well on television, and people felt comfortable having them in their home. And Doris was a staple of Monday nights on CBS right after Lucy. And and after 5 years, her contract was done. They wanted her to stay. And
Oh, they
she's-
did. So
Oh yeah, they wanted her.
So
to
the
stay.
ratings are still-
The ratings were great, and CBS, as a matter of fact, they were offered Monday Night Football, and that's the cover of a TV Guide cover where it says what, and cancel Doris Day.
Huh.
So basically, no,
that.
it was Mary Tyler was on the cover. It said that's the title of the TV Guide. But anyway, no, she was very important. And she says, I've done everything I wanted to do with this character in the show. She wanted to do something else. And she didn't do anything else for a long time. Like, she did a special in 1975, Doris Day Today. And then...
The Christmas special too, or no?
No, she did the Doris Day special, or Doris Marianne Kappelhoff in 71, which is amazing, with Tony Bennett and Rock Hudson a little bit. And the last one was with John Denver, Tim Conway, and Rich Little. So that's all available on DVD. Not that I'm selling.
Now, do you cover all of that in the book?
Yes. So that's covered, and how they were made and produced and all that.
And she granted interviews for this book as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
So this has
And she
exclusive.
even called a book party, and she loved the book. There were so many books that were coming out on Doris Day during that period, and she was very upset about, there was one coming out that came out on Virgin, and different books were coming out, and she never wanted to grant interviews or anything like that. But this one was like, and I'm not talking about anything that's, I'm not a person, it's her career, it's fun. There's little anecdotes about her life, but the only thing that's kind of cool and interesting, there's the Mad Magazine comic book that they did on her.
Mhm.
So I bought the rights to that, and that's in the book, and it's really fun because it's the only time you see Doris in comic book form, so it's kind of cool. And she becomes a superhero woman at the end, so it's fun.
Cool. Pierre, thank you so
You're
much.
very welcome. I talked so long.
No, you did not. It was perfect. I want you to stay. Will you stick around for the panel?
Oh,
at the end?
sure, absolutely.
Let's have a nice hand, Pierre Patrick, everyone. So we're going to bump up the lights.
Oh. Boy, how about that? Oh, thank you.
Bumped up more. I just love saying that. All right. Does anybody have any questions for anyone on the panel? Yes, sir.
It's actually a two-part question. First off, Judy, you made a reference almost to passing to a great individual, and that's Abby Singer,
Yeah.
who went on from doing Doris Day to working for Mary Tyler Moore during the MGM era. It's like his name was in the credits as executive in charge of production for Mary Tyler Moore, Rhoda, Hill Street Blues, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
And maybe you can talk a little bit about him. But secondly, as successful as the Doris Day show was, is the story true that the deal was actually made between Martin Milcher, her husband, and CBS without her even knowing about it?
Yeah, and after Marty died, she needed the money, and Terry told her she had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
You probably know something about that.
Yeah, I mean it's a little more complicated than that. Is that she was doing with Six You Get Egg Rolls, which was her last movie. During that whole thing, she was so busy shooting that Marty was getting the TV show ready, and he didn't want her to do The Graduate or anything like that. And TV was the way to go, and then CBS made a contract that was unbelievable, more than that, millions of dollars. So she decided to do the show, And after all, everything was said and done, he passed away, and she was stuck with the contract. And she said, "Okay, let's do it." The sets were already built. Fran Ryan was already hired, most of the actors. So it was a tough year for her the first year, but she went with it and did it anyway. So.
No, there didn't seem to be that much of
No,
a.
it's not on.
You know, it's,
You turned it off, I think.
That's right now.
Yeah.
It's when the lights on.
There you go.
The heck?
Yeah, it went off. You must have accidentally.
Do you want to use this one?
Here, try it now.
One, whatever.
No.
There didn't seem to be that much of a chemistry between her and Fran Ryan. Was that true? Or did it not? Did she not see that there was anything, or did she see that there wasn't, and she and Fran left the show?
No. Well, were you there when Fran Ryan was working? You were there later, right?
I think I started later.
Later.
Yeah.
See, Fran Ryan she was hired for the series, but she ended up doing 10 episodes. And it was a time when CBS was changing. They wanted a multi-ethnic thing for the show, so they hired Naomi Stevens to just do an Hispanic maid and give the show a little more flavor. And Fran Ryan wanted more lines all the time. She was funny, she was good, and sometimes they just gave her a little scene and she was taking more and more of the show. And, she was known as Arnold Ziffel's mother. So, when you've been raising a pig, it's a different kind of thing that you're doing. So, no, she was let go, and that's what happened with that. So.
About Abby Singer, you wanted to hear about that.
Sure.
Well, Abby was just the coolest guy. It was really weird because people thought that I was related. They thought that I might have been his daughter. We didn't know how that got started, and we couldn't convince people it wasn't true. I don't know why that happened. I think it may have been because I think he may have adopted a daughter from Vista Del Mar, and I had lived there. So I think that's how that happened. Anyway, he was really, really a great guy. He could teach anybody everything that you needed to know about the business. In fact, he was extremely great when the man that I married was a professional motocross racer, and when he retired, he needed a job, and Abby got him into prop making. He got him in right away. He got offered 2 jobs almost instantly because Abby referred him, and he wound up spending 20 years in the business, made a great living. Abby was just the greatest guy. He knew everything there was to know about the business, and he'd help you, and he'd give you anything, and just loved him to death.
And Judy, I forgot to mention that you were a writer, and you did episodes of like Columbo, correct?
Yeah, my partner and I wrote a 2-hour Columbo movie of the week, and that got us into the Writers Guild, and we worked.
But you never did Macmillan and Wife?
No,
Or you did?
no.
This was after, right?
Yeah, this was after.
And we were talking beforehand that when Columbo and Macmillan and Wife, whatever, were released on DVD, they left out the opening with the music and the guy with the flashlight, and people were upset with that because that's one of the things they remembered about that show, and sure enough, they re-released it on DVD with that opening because that's what you connect with. When you make a connection with 50 billion people on a TV show and you just can't go change it. That's why a lot of these remakes that they do fail, because they try to recreate something instead of respect the original mythology of the original product. But that's a whole other show. Okay, any other questions?
But Herbie, you didn't say who was the composer of the NBC mystery movie thing.
Who was the composer, Brett?
Henry Mancini.
Oh, Henry Mancini.
And what was the recurring 3 notes throughout that whole thing?
Do re mi?
You're close. You should know it as a former NBC page. Bong, bong.
Oh,
bong.
jeez. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks, Brad, for bringing all of that to everybody's
It was all
attention.
done with a flute.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you, Brett.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I know I'm on the panel, but I have a question. I keep, for years now, I've been hearing on Facebook, and someone sent me an email, get Doris Day the Oscar, Academy Award. I've always wondered, since you know Doris so well, is that something that she would like, or does it have any...
No, I mean, she doesn't really care necessarily about awards or anything like that. and the Academy is insistent on you have to pick it up yourself.
Yeah.
But Jean-Louis Trintignant didn't pick it up himself, and a few people didn't pick it up themselves. Well, that has no, well, this is a Lifetime Achievement Award. So,
Yeah.
there's no reason for the Academy not to give it to her, except that they don't want to. So, and you
She
can
deserved
write
it.
and call them and this and that,
Because
whatever.
a lot of people want them to.
Yeah, I mean, it would make her fans, I think, very happy, but she herself,
Why does the Academy not want to?
I don't know. I think it's a good question for, you know?
Well,
You have the answer?
I don't know if I have the answer to that, but I know that with Elizabeth Montgomery, she was nominated several times for Bewitched, and the show was not a simple little fantasy show. Anyone who really understands the show or read my books realizes that it was very well done, and many of those shows in the 60s were well done. But with regard to Elizabeth, she, like Susan Lucci, by the way, was nominated several times, but ultimately never won, although I think Susan did finally win. But, you know, Elizabeth Montgomery was gorgeous. She was down to earth. She had a beautiful personality. Her parents were very prestigious. Robert Montgomery and Elizabeth Allen were, you know, stars in their own right. And, you know, peers are sometimes odd people. You know, there's, well, she has everything. We're not going to give her an award, too. So there might have been some of that with Doris. She had everything, you know, and sometimes these award shows are not necessarily popularity contests as much as just very political. So that's my take on it.
But she deserved it for Love Me or
Oh,
Leave Me. Love Me or Leave Me. I couldn't believe everybody got nominated but her. And she was
Yeah.
great in it.
I mean, you have to remember a few years ago, Oprah Winfrey got the Oscar, and that was only after doing Color Purple. She got a Lifetime Achievement Award Oscar. So that was only one movie, and, you know, the Academy, she gave a nice amount of money, and whatever, something happened. Is this on film now?
Yes.
Is Oprah watching? But anyway, no, it's just that they should do it. I mean, it's common sense. She's got the Golden Globe.
Well, also, too, I mean, there's, you know, award shows today have been so diluted. You know, there's an award for everything. Yeah, I liked it when there was only the Oscars, the Grammys, the Tonys, the Emmys. That was it, you know, so.
But I'll tell you something funny. When she got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, that award she really loved. It was delivered in a plane to her. She didn't go to Washington, even though they wanted her to have the Lincoln Room ready for her. She wore it to lunch at Quail Lodge on her neck. And it was like really, she was really, really proud of that. And that's something, and that is the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So that's really, really nice.
Well, all of you have been really, really nice, and it's been so lovely to have you. And thank you for taking time out this evening to celebrate.
I think he had
Oh.
a question for Pierre.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold.
My staff.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Pierre, do you think Doris would come to LA to get the Oscar?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's not, but the thing is, there could have been a film thing, or, you know, when she got the LA Film Critics Awards, Norman Jewison picked it up, and he had a phone call with Doris live. And, you know, things like that can be arranged if the Academy wanted to make an effort, you know, but they don't want to, and that's...
How many Oscars was she nominated for?
She was only nominated for one, for Pillow Talk, but she got 6 Oscar nominations for her songs, and that was before the Grammys, and she did win for Que Sera Sera and Secret Love. But It's Magic was nominated, even Julie was nominated, a song from Love Me or Leave Me was nominated, so, but she, you know, in a sense, she's got one for Que Sera Sera and Secret Love, so if you want to look at it that way.
So maybe you can put it out, talk to Doris and say, if you come.
No,
Well,
she's-
why don't we ask her?
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions you might have, you can, we'll all be over here, and you can ask everyone individually. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get over to the table and have Pierre sit and sign some books for you all. And next week we have Kathy Coleman from Land of the Lost, one of my favorites.